everybody. I'm Captain Tom Vassell.
I'm just Camilla Cleghorn.
No, I'm first mate Chris.
There you go.
I'm the deck boys.
That's right.
Swabbing.
Get swabbing.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Is the poop deck really what I think it is?
It is not, which is good, but it's worse. Anyhow, we're taking a look at Seas of Havoc. This is a pirate-themed board game, which is half deck building, half pirate combat, half worker placement. How can I have three halves? Z's going to explain the rules.
I'm not going to explain the math.
Okay, you don't
I'm
have
just
to.
going to explain the
rules.
rules. Here we go. The game is going to be played over many rounds, and when the damage deck is over, and this is based on how many players are playing, in this case 3, when this is gone, then we're going to finish out that round and see who the winner is. You are going to get points for cards you have purchased, such as this card here in the market, which is worth 3 victory points, or this one over here, which is worth 1 victory point. For your ship upgrades, every ship comes with a couple of ship upgrades. They begin turned off, but you may purchase them and they'll give you victory points, as you can see here, and then you'll lose victory points for every damage you still have, as you can see there. Whoever has the highest score is the winner in the game. The game is going to be played over 2 different phases every round. There's the island phase, where you are going to send out your ships, your little sloops, to different worker placement spots to take actions, gather things. And then the sea phase, in which we're going to be moving around the sea here, taking shots at each other, maybe gathering loot from wrecks, from sunken ships that are out there in the ocean. So we're going to start with the first part here, starting with the start player, which is up there, and they have that token there to denote so. So on your turn, you're going to take one of these 3 that you have, and you'll send it out to one of these locations. Many of them are very similar. The shipyard, the sailmaker, the blacksmith, we've got even the bank over here, and the capital generally give you resources, okay? You have 3 kinds of resources in this game. You've got sails, and those are tracked on the wheel here. You've got cannonballs, that the third player begins with 1, as you can see right here. And then you've also got gold, which is the coins over here. They mostly help you to buy cards if that's what they require, all right? So if, for example, that first player happened to go to the sailmaker, there's a single spot there for 3+ players, okay? Once it's occupied, nobody else can go there, and then they are going to gain immediately their 3 sails. And then it's the next player's go. If you go to the bank, you will take a coin and 1 of any of the 3 resources. If you go to the capital, you get any 1 of the 3. You also become the start player. So maybe that player will go there. They will gain whatever they want to. Let's say they'll take a cannonball, and they'll put that on their cannon. And then they become the start player by taking this away from the other player. I'll put that right there, all right? And then the next player would go. The other places you can go to the workshop and you can level up one of your cards, assuming you have the resources to trade for it. So if I can give up 1 coin and 1 point of sailing, I could flip this over and I have an ability. Sometimes it's an immediate ability, sometimes it's an ongoing thing, all right? So that's the possibility there. If you go to the trading post, you can trade any 2 resources for any other 2 resources. You don't lose from that conversion. So that there's a spot open at 3 players and a spot open at 5 players. It's going to get very crowded at here, so you might have no way to make what you need. You can always trade in for something else and get what you need from there. And then over here, the Deep Cove lets you get rid of 2 cards. Generally, you want to be getting rid of these damage cards, but you can also trade in any other card in your deck, and in fact, you even get the resources back that card costs. So that's another place where you can go. You can also go to the market, and if you go to the market, you are going to select the card you want down here, and you don't pay for it yet, but when we're done during the island phase, then if you have the resources, you can pay them and take the card. If you don't have the resources, you don't get the card, but there's no further penalty. So perhaps this player here will go to this card. They want to acquire this one. It's going to cost them 1 cannon, and it'll give them a new ability on the high seas. It's also worth a victory point. And then down here at the bottom of these cards, you'll also see a banner with a symbol and an ability. Now those I haven't talked about yet, but you can get those as well up there at those 4 spots. And if you send your ship there, you're going to both take that token, be able to trigger those special abilities on any cards that feature it, but you also get to do something right now. So for example, let's say that player there wants to go to, let's say this one. They'll go there. Let's put their ship there. They'll take this. They immediately get any one of the 3 resources. Let's say they'll take a coin. And then they keep this flag. And any cards that show that are going to allow them to trigger that ability on that card, making those cards a little bit better. So this continues with, again, players being able to go to any one of these places. Perhaps going over here to the bank, they'll take sailing, and they will take 1 coin. And once we are all done placing out the workers here, placing out the little sloops, then we are going to buy the cards, assuming, again, you can purchase them, and move on to the sea phase and clean all these up, okay? You can always, when you go down to the market, by the way, either claim a card or you could restock. You could discard every card that no one's picked, set them aside, put out 3 new ones, and then select one of those. So you can't mess anyone up by doing so, but you could do that and see some new cards as you go. So we'll do that. We'll say that this player is going to go... Where are they going to go? They're going to go right here to the blacksmith and get a couple guns, cannon. And then this player is going to go here. And they're going to take this token, which is going to let them draw a card immediately. We are assuming that all of these players have already drawn the 4 cards they get from their shuffled deck before the game started. And now that we are all done, these players would be able to pay these. These cards go right into your hand. And you are ready to begin. So here's what a card hand would look like. These are all starting cards. Depending on the character you picked, for example, the merchant, you're going to have a couple of cards shuffled in here. And then depending on the ship you picked, you'll have 6 cards shuffled in, beginning with a deck of 8, and you draw 4 each hand. So if you buy anything, if this player buys this one, giving up this cannonball and purchasing this card, it goes right into their hand. They now have 1 more card. So let me show you what the second half of the game looks like. During the sea phase here, each player is going to, on their turn, play a card from their hand. And they can either execute the action or they cannot. They can pass. You still play a card. And this continues around and around the table until everyone is out of cards in their hand. And then at that point, we would go on to the next island phase. So we're starting with the Pirate Queen here, who took away the start player token during the island phase that just happened. She's going to take a look at her cards and play one of these. There is a Pirate Queen ability here. Take a flag from the board. Do not use its flag action. If you control more flags than any other player, gain 1 point. So she could do that, but she is instead going to play one of these cards. You'll see many of them are movement cards. And these don't have anything fancy going on. She could, for example, play this card, and it would move her ship forward 1, meaning this ship moves here. You could stand these up as well. They'll be aware they're only printed on one side, which is unfortunate. Or you can lay them down like this. I'm obviously doing this for the camera. So she could move to there with that card, discard that. That's the end of her turn. Many of the cards are going to shoot as well. So let's take a look at the next player's hand of cards over here. We've got this one. This is the merchant. They also have a card here where they can make a barter trade. Well, some of these you'll see, many of them in fact, will shoot. This one lets you turn your ship right where it is, leaving it there. This one lets you shoot. It says fire 1 cannon, range 3, but you need the cannonball for this, okay? So if this player managed to move up, let's say they were here, and then they play this card, or any of these other ones, then they could shoot at another ship. You only shoot out of the sides of your ship, and in this case, range 3 would certainly hit here. That player would take a damage card, and you are going to get some victory points. The amount of victory points you get is listed right here on the player aid. If you ram another ship, you are going to gain 1 point, okay? If you broadside them, which is what this would be, you'd get 2 and they take a hit. And if you do a raking shot to the front or the back of their ship, then you take 3 victory points. You can also collide with these stones out here, and that would be bad for you because you're going to take a damage yourself. Also, whenever you ram, you have to discard a card from your hand, so it means your turn will likely end faster. So that's what the player could do, but you do need the cannonball to pay for that. Also, if I play this card as the merchant, and I happened to have the card necessary, or the flag rather, necessary for this, if they owned that, then they could, after doing all of this, also do this ability over here, which means they could take another turn immediately. So you could do that if you have the matching flag. This is, like I said, going to continue around the table with players moving, maneuvering, ramming each other, shooting at each other, possibly ending on gusts of wind, which would move you, possibly going over these wrecks, which means you would take one, you can look at it yourself, it's going to have some loot, you can use this later to pay for something, and then needing to propagate the board with another sunken ship, so you need to roll the dice and put one out there in the coordinates given. 5, 5 means that another one shows up right there. And then the rocks are impassable, like I said. The whirlpool here, if you end on it, it will spin you in the direction it shows. So as you can see there, if I was sitting on it like so, it would spin me, this is hard to show you, but it would spin me like this. So it goes like that. All right. So there you go. So that's what's going on. And again, the whole time getting points from shooting and ramming other players, giving them these damage cards. When these run out, the game's going to be over. You're going to add up your points and see who the winner is. And that is a general overview of how you play the game.
Seas Havoc is from Rock Manor Games, and I really like their stuff these days. They produce 1, maybe 2 games a year.
Yeah.
And they're really big on theme. I mean, they didn't lawyer up. These games have this.
Yeah, they do the Maximum Apocalypse stuff. That's probably their best supported line. They've made quite a few of those. And yeah, they're known for actually probably like 3 specific things. A lot of theme, really amazing artwork, and kind of sloppy rules is sort of the 3 things I think of when I think Rock Manor.
It's too bad. The last one, that is.
The last one, yeah.
Yeah.
So how was the rules on this one with that little segue?
I think this one has much better rules. There's still some questions, but they have much better rules. That's a good thing, great thing. There's also a lot less artwork than I thought there was.
Really a lot.
I'm like, oh, this artwork. Look at all these captains. Look at all this. This cover is amazing. Most of the game's cards are featureless, I guess, or have no artwork. So.
Spartan, one might say.
I was going to say the whole game is Spartan. When I first saw it, I was like, that's the game. There's a board with a few tokens on it. Like, I actually want to replace... I want to keep the tokens you pull out, but then I'm like, okay, this is a rock. We're putting a rock there. You know, there's something, there's something that looks like a rock, and I don't know, I just think, or maybe even like treasure chests. And then when you get a treasure chest, you just take the top disc off the pile.
That's good, yeah.
I think because it is such a thematic game, it's right for stuff like that, those kind of upgrades that bring that theme to the board. Because I think as you're playing, you do feel that theme, you're just not seeing it.
Yes, I agree. But the iconography, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's
like,
very good.
I look at those cards upside down in a card line, which I'm not a big fan of when there's a card line, and I'm like, what do those cards do? Once I figured out there's only like 5 different variations on those cards. I mean, there's lots of different variations, but I was like, I know what that one does, and I could see from a distance.
But that being said, they also have a lot of information on it. So it's not just 1 or 2 icons. Like you said, there's like 5 different things on the card that you need to know, and it delivers that in such a way that you know exactly what it does, very quick, very cleanly. So while I don't like it having a lot of the art, I think it works for the cards because it gives you a lot of information very cleanly, very quickly, and even from a distance.
Yeah, graphic design here is superb. They really did a good job.
The card type, any extra powers, what it takes. Is it a sailing? Is it an ammo? How much does it take? What resources? All of those are answered with a 2-3 second glance.
And some of those movement, the movement icons printed on there, they're kind of exciting sometimes. You flip them over, and same type of situation from across the table upside down. You're like, ooh, is that what I think it is? And you look at it and you're like, oh, cool, I can kind of move in a different, oh, I like this. It's readable, it's accessible. I still think it looks pretty good. I think it might look a little bit more sparse than some of their other games, but having not played those other ones, me coming in, this is my first Rock Manor game, I looked and I thought, this has a nice old map kind of feel, but completely avoiding the, here's a table of nothing but tan.
Yes.
No, I agree on that. The only production problem I have, and we have a deluxe version here, so I don't know, is I did not like that the ships were not printed on both sides. I think it's hard for me to tell, especially on one of the ships where the front was, and it just didn't look good on the board to me.
And I am on the complete opposite end of that.
To be clear, Camilla's the only person in history, I believe, who thinks the
I also would love for them to be printed on both sides.
If they were printed on both sides, I would not know which way it's going.
I still don't understand that. You can see the picture. You see the front of the ship.
I don't understand how you can't change your perception. You're like, okay, it's on this side. It's always on the right side of the ship. So then as it's going, it's just like doing like a Google map or something, and you're coming up. It doesn't matter if you're approaching the turn from the bottom or the side.
I agree. I want my Google map to always be facing my car going up.
Well,
I hate when it does the other way.
No,
I hate that.
If it's giving you directions, but no, if you're just following yourself on a map, you have to know if it's turning right or left because that's how maps work. You don't move the map around as you're looking at it.
No, my Apple one orients towards me.
Yes, your Apple one. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually following a map.
I hate that.
Paper map?
Yes, like if you're out hiking.
That's disgusting. They still make that?
No, I'm saying, but that's like what the orientation,
I get that.
I'm used to that.
I want them printed on both sides.
I do not want it printed on both sides. I would have no idea. I would have to replace the ships if they were on both sides. I would not.
That's mind-boggling to me.
Because the shapes are they're so similar on both sides. I mean, yes, you can tell it's a ship, but I mean, one has a nub that goes that way and the other just has a bowl. Well, which one is it? Which one's the front? I don't know.
Pointy end goes forward. I learned this from Zorro.
I get that, but I mean, I'm having to think that every time instead of just my mind works with it on one side.
It's
not
funny
both.
because I agree that for you having the screen print on one side, you're like, I know which way is which side. Yeah. I just want it to look prettier.
Jeez.
And I seldom say that in a game.
That's like opposite of what you would expect from us.
Yeah. If I could get nice 3D plastic ships.
Yes.
That they were obviously, like, again, sailing in one direction, that would be the perfect upgrade for me.
Absolutely.
But I would have to get a color match to these colors, and the colors look good in this game. I thought they did a nice way to, everything that's supposed to be red is the same red, and so on. So it would have to match that color too. That would be a tall order. But yeah, I want to print it on both sides. I can tell which way is forward.
Gameplay. So this is a deck building game, and you're not a huge deck building fan.
I'm not.
But most of the deck building is very minimal.
Yes.
In fact, the biggest deck building decision to me is at the beginning of the game where I'm going, which pirate and which ship do I want to combine? I think that's cool.
Yeah.
They have like suggested ones you can do, but I like the combining. And then you buy a few cards over the course of the game. You don't buy a ton, but you're trying to buy some cool combos that make your ship do neat things that also match those flags. And that flag system is very neat. I like it a lot.
That's probably mechanically the most neat thing, I think, about this game. This idea of I place a worker in the worker placement part, and I take a flag. It does something very simple. Take another turn, draw a card, what have you. But then the cards in your deck, not the ones you start with, but the ones you buy, they get that bonus again if you own that flag.
Yes.
I really like that. It's so simple. It brings you combos, and in fact, if it wasn't there, I would have a major problem with the deck building part because I think the deck building in this game misses on something that is the one thing I like in deck building, and that is after my third deck pass or whatever, I've built in combos. You know what I mean? I bought this card, and then later I bought this one because I'm hoping to combo them. This game does not have that. I did not get that feeling at all. Where I'm like, ooh, that card goes well with this other one I bought last turn. No, that card is like gone from my mind.
Yeah.
I'm buying this one because I can use it right now.
It's much more tactical in nature.
It's incredibly tactical. There is no real Again, the deck building mechanism in this is merely a way to acquire some new abilities right now this turn, and you're buying victory points. But there was no synergy there, and that's honestly my biggest hit on the game. I think the deck building is, according to what deck building I think of as, a miss. There's no combinations I'm building in my deck that I'm hoping to draw together.
My biggest combination for me is I would try to buy a lot of cards with the same flag and then get that flag.
And what I like about that is if you do that and you don't get the flag, the card still has value.
Sure.
It's not
Yes.
like you then have a dead hand or a dead deck. And I think that's what really makes it work for me, is that the flag is an added bonus you can do, or get another resource, get some little benefit, but it's not like, cool, you took the flag from me. I have nothing I can do now because I set up for that, to have that.
Yes.
You just tactically adjust. Maybe I'm not as strong this turn, something like that, but you're still in the game.
The deck building itself is a little bit lower on the ratings of like how consequential it feels at times. I feel like the worker placement part is almost far more consequential because that's where you get the flags. That's where you can wipe the lineup really easily if you're looking for a specific type of card to go with the flags you have. Like, I like that phase a lot. It, to me, if this was just a deck building game, then I would agree that it would kind of get a knock for that. But because it's a part of other things going on, I think that it still gels really well, and it makes those flags really nail biting when you're like, oh, it's almost my turn. Am I going to keep the extra action because I would love that right now? Oh, someone else took it. Oh, how do I adjust? How do I pivot? Yep.
Yeah.
This is a weird game to teach. I played it with my kids, and it's like, oh, it's a worker placement. They get that. And then there's a move the ship around, and they feel, when you first are teaching it, it's like a weird disjointed teach. Like, okay, we're all going to take turns. We're placing workers. We're getting stuff. Now we're all going to do this and move stuff around the board, and you're like, well, okay, it's once you get it, it fits together beautifully.
Yes.
But this is a tougher one to teach, I think, than other games. But that moving ships around, I got to make this clear. If you do not like take that in any form, I don't think you would like a lot of this game. I'm not saying I don't like games that are straight take that, like boom, I hit you. But you are ramming each other, shooting each other, clogging each other's hand up with those cards. I mean, the game requires that because that's the end result of the game.
That is part of the game, yes.
I struggle calling that take that, though, because, I mean, to me, in my mind, it's similar to, like, King of Tokyo. Would you call that take that?
Yeah.
Really? See, and I wouldn't. I
take
consider
that's not
that
always
more,
a pejorative for me.
See, and for me, I consider that more just combat. You know, it's just more, I punch you, you go down in health, last man standing, or in this case, it's highest points, so it's kind of the opposite. You know, you're not going down in health points, you're going up in points. So it doesn't. So I have that different than take that.
But if you don't like people doing that,
you don't like confrontation.
See, I disagree because I don't like those things, and I do like this. I feel like this feels different because it is more like the King of Tokyo, where you know it's that kind of game, and it's not like I'm targeting you because I don't like you. It's you know what that's what this game is.
I agree that it feels separate from what I would consider like the take that type of thing. It borders on it because if I'm getting rammed, if I'm getting shot at, I'm getting more of those damage cards. Mm-hmm. But it's nice because they'll just go into the deck and eventually get cycled through. So it's not like I'm constantly just sitting there getting actively worse because Z rammed me last turn. I'm not sitting there going like, oh, I have less I can do on my turn. It's kind of a slower effect where that damage will cycle through. Mm-hmm. And then the damage is pretty easy to get rid of. So I think that's why I don't consider it take that. It's kind of like you're saying, it's more tactical combat, mm-hmm. and it has repercussions. It's not toothless, but it matters.
Also, I'm not going to go out of my way to go attack Tom across the board if I'm right next to you and I can shoot my cannons and you happen to be in the line of fire. I'm like, man, I'm getting points.
I mean, you know, going into someone's turn, you're like, if they have fire, I'm getting hit. I'm clearly in the, you know what I mean? You know that. You see it coming.
I agree, but here's the thing. I love this game, but this is my one flaw with the game is, in multiplayer games, and that's why I think it's actually better. My sweet spot with this is 3. 3 was really great. But with the game does not differentiate if you are winning or you're winning, and I get points no matter who I shoot.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it's possible for somebody to get shot more than other people. They're just in the mix.
Yes.
I'm in between 2 ships. Boom, boom. I got 2 negative points. They both got positive points. Now, sometimes, occasionally, I've been in a spot where I can shoot once. then I'm looking, who do I think is winning? I'm shooting them. But if there's only one person within range, I'm shooting them. And definitely there can be, especially with more players, a piling on of one player. Again, you can get rid of those cards, but also when the game ends, and you might have 8 of them, and that is a game-losing thing.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why I say it's not toothless, but it's not what you're saying. I'm going to go target Camilla for no reason.
Right.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Right. As well
I
as like if
think-
you're there and getting shot over and over and over again, it also means when it's your turn, you're right there, ready to shoot other people as well, as long as you're not playing the merchant. It's fine.
But, but sometimes you have the hand you can't move either.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
I think it just proves to me that the game is A, tactical, but B, pretty lucky. There's some luck in this game.
There is.
Okay? I mean, you have to know that too. It looks like a big Euro. That's part of it, and it's not. There's worker placement, but it's mostly to refill your cannonballs so you can shoot more people.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? There's a decent amount of luck here. You need to be aware of that. And between the combat and the luck, the best player at the table might not be... I don't know why I put the quotes on player. The best player at the table might not be the winner. You might just happen to have been in the way and several people attacked you and you lost by a few points. That's just how that worked out. One other thing we should probably talk about is the fact that the board wraps around is a bit of a mind bender for me anyway.
Especially when you're turning on a corner.
That's
Those
like,
turn on corners, you're like, I'm
Right.
going up and
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Or you're across the map and you say, I shoot my cannon and I hit you this way.
yeah, like, oh,
It's satisfying
whoa.
to do, though.
Yes.
It is. It's just a little bit of a mind bender. It definitely threw me for a loop. I don't know if I love that the board wraps or not.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it because then you're close to everyone usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be there mechanically to be able to get around, but it does. It definitely messes, and it's like, hold on, let me take this step at a time. Move one forward, one left or right. Got
Yeah,
it.
like you can end up in one corner.
Like,
If you go this way and this way, you end up
you're like,
here.
here, right.
Like, whoa.
it's
Okay.
like one block at a time. Hold on.
It's Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Yeah,
All right, so what's your opinion? Did I do that right?
that's right.
Is it your opinion or your opinion? I
Your
don't know.
opinion.
Opinion. I'm gonna come in at an 8 on this one. It really surprised me, I think, how much I enjoyed this game, and so an 8 is very high for a combat game for me, because that's not typically my style of play unless it's, again, something like King of Tokyo that's just chucking dice for 10, 15 minutes and you're done. I think that this is quick and it's punchier than I thought. It says 60 minutes. I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
You're engaged for all of those 60 minutes because of that. I don't know what the phase is called, but I'm going to call it the market phase, the beginning phase.
An island phase,
The island
and then
phase.
a sea phase.
Okay,
I
so
think.
during the island phase, you're engaged in that, trying to build up, and then turns are also quick and resolved quick in the sea phase as well. I really like that as well. For me, it does take a little bit of a hit, again, just because I'm not really into combat games, and I don't love the scoring either. I've played multiple times, and I'm still like, all right, I'm hitting you here. Tell me how many points that is. It's either 1, 2, or 3, and I don't really know.
Yeah.
And then if you add in like the Kraken or some of the other modules or variants, that kind of stuff, that's a whole different, is it 1, 2, or 3 points? I don't know, I can't remember. I can never remember which one. So for me, it also takes, the overhead is a little bit too messy, and I don't want to say messy, just not as clear, hitting
The
a ship.
points are on the reference card, aren't they? I think it says.
I think so.
Ram 1, side 2, front, back 3.
Okay, I don't think I had a reference card when I played or whatever.
Bad
But
teacher.
anyway, so for me, I just think that's a little bit too. It just kind of takes you out of the game at being the different points and not being able to hold on to that. So yeah, for me, it's an 8. I definitely enjoyed it.
For me,
Go ahead, no.
For me, I'm at a 7.5. Like, I like this. It's definitely fun. It's a little bit of a frivolous game in the sense of what you're saying. The best player might not win. And that's okay, because I'm having fun with it. I like that it's a pirate-themed game because it fits very well for that. A game of opportunism, right? Tom's clearly in the lead, but I have 2 cards that allow me to shoot, so I'm also going to shoot Z and Milla because they happen to be next to me.
Right.
Bow, 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 right? I'm fine with that because I'm still having a lot of fun. I'm earning points. It might not be as overarching strategic as other games, but I think it fits really well what it's doing. And I agree. If the deck building were somehow a little bit tighter, if that, it could go up for me, but it's also just very fun. And so, yeah, I can recommend it. I can comfortably recommend if you like that confrontation.
Yeah.
And if you
Yes.
don't, then you know to avoid. But yeah, I think it's fun.
I'm going to come in at an 8 as well. Everything positive you guys have said, I would echo that. My couple of things that keep it from a higher score are, the deck building's a little flat for me. I like the 2 phases quite a bit. I love the island. We put out some workers. Everybody good? Gather up your little worker, ships, and we play some cards one at a time, going around, shooting, moving, picking up treasure. All of this stuff is great. I think the rulebook could be a little stronger. And the board wrapping around thing messes with my mind a little bit, but I really do enjoy it. This is one that has a fun look, a good vibe. If you like this style of game, like Chris is saying, I recommend it.
Yeah, and I got mostly beat up by Chris in my first game a lot, but I still love this game. It's an 8.5 for me. That's sweet. There's a couple reasons. I think the 3-player is sweet, but once you get into that mindset, you're like, this is only 60 minutes.
Yeah.
This is a fast
quick.
game.
Yeah,
and,
it is.
and I get to do lots of things I like. I like to do worker placement. Let's pause worker placement. Now let's move ships around and shoot each other.
Yeah.
And the deck building lays in the background, but I'm telling you that the specialty of your pirate is so awesome. I like each pirate. I was like, ooh, I want to be this guy. Ooh, I want to be her. Ooh, I want to be this one. They all are really cool.
Yes.
And then they got 2 special cards that are in that deck, and the upgrades to your ship are cool.
The ship upgrades are some of my favorite.
I really
love
like that
I love
that
it.
mix in there. But if I upgrade my ship, I've usually given up resources that I can shoot you with. And then also just when you pull off something cool, like you slide in between 2 ships and shoot both of them.
Oh, it
or you
feels
have that
so
card
good.
that lets you shoot 3 times and you're like, I'm sorry, man.
Boom.
Yeah, when you upgrade your ship, you can do some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up treasure on the board. It's lighthearted fun that's finally lighthearted. Like
Yes.
this is a game that it's not so light. I would not say mass. This is not a mass market game.
No.
Okay, there's too much going on for that.
More complex than King of Tokyo, which is like a comparison with kind
Right,
of
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, when I played this with my kids, once we got it flowed really smoothly. They didn't have to keep asking questions on how to move stuff. It works, and everyone gets a kick out of shooting each other. And you get those cards, and you're like, oh man, this card. Oh, I can just discard it. Fine, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting shot hurts you a little, but not too much. So, ARRGH! Seas of Havoc. I'm a terrible pirate.
No, you're good. You're great.
Yeah,
you're a
yeah,
merchant.
yeah,
Stick
yeah,
with
you're
your
working
merchant.
on it.
Arr! Doubloons.
Seas of Havoc. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Camilla Claghorn.
I'm still first mate Chris.
I'm Z Garcia.
Still on the poop deck.
Ugh.